everything. Hey, Sam,
Hello.
how's,
Hi.
how's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with Backline about music and tour, life on the road. Like, we so appreciate you.
I'm so happy to be here. It's my honor to be here. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. Well, we got a lot of questions from fans for you. People were
Oh,
really excited to ask you some questions. So I guess we'll just get started. I like to start these real talk chats with just asking you first and foremost, how are you doing today in this moment?
I am doing all right. I'm not doing my best. There's definitely a reintegration period that happens when you come off of the
Mhm.
road and back into real life. That is an adjustment that can sometimes feel like whiplash and kind of jarring. And I don't think it matters how many times you come off the road and back into real life. It is always an adjustment period. And quite like psychologically and biologically, there's like a adrenaline descent
Yeah.
thing that's happening. You know what I mean? There's so much stimulation every single day to go from losing all that stimulation and all that adrenaline and all that affirmation and to be back in a place of having to set your own schedule. It gets hard sometimes. And I deal with what my therapist refers to sometimes as like meta feelings. So, like, I am sad because I have to get up and dress myself and set my own schedule. I don't have to get up to make sure I'm there for sound check. I don't have my crew and my tour manager holding me accountable. And I get sad that I have to be in charge of my own schedule. But then I get sad to be like, why are you sad that you have to be in charge of your own schedule? You're an adult. And it compounds and you sort of beat yourself up. So I'm trying to work against that these couple days. And every time I do come off the road, I get better at just building in time to just be present and not try to rush to do anything. I don't need to rush off the road into catching up with friends or rush off the road into errands. I can just remember what it's like to be myself in my house and then move forward, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm an artist myself, touring musician for over a decade, and it is the integration, the reintegration is so real. That is
Yeah.
so tough. And I think a lot of folks who might not tour might not understand that it's really tough to be, like you said, you're on tour, there's a schedule, there's a routine, there's a purpose for every single day. And then when you get back on the to your home life, it takes a minute to adjust.
Well, yeah,
It's
you have
very
to go to work.
yeah.
And also, you're a part of a team. Like you said, there's other people to hold you
Yeah.
accountable. So,
Yeah. Gosh, thank you so much for shedding a light on that, because also the post-tour blues is very real.
the
Do
realist,
you ever deal with that?
that's what I'm talking about. What I was just
Yep.
talking about is that, and I'm dealing with that. Yeah. Now, for context, I just maybe through what was it, 3 days ago, we got back from our Europe UK tour. It was a headlining tour, and yeah, I mean, it's totally for real. And again, and I think it's a combination of, emotionally, you have to set your own schedule again. Also emotionally, like I'm on the road with my dearest friends in the world. We love each other and it is work, but it is also kind of like a sleepover every night. So then to go back to not seeing my besties every day, emotionally, that's a bit of a dip, but also that reintegration. And as we were talking about, like quite literally the not having that adrenaline to feed you and get you going every day and not having that schedule, um yeah, there's always that blue period, and it's again, you get better as time goes on, but I've come to realize that I used to do this thing when I would come off the road and I would call it jokingly aggressively grounding, where like I would get home and in the first 24 hours, I'm going to clean the baseboards. I'm going to deep clean everything. I'm going to vacuum. I wanted to touch everything that was mine because I had spent so long living out of a suitcase that
Mhm.
I wanted to touch everything that was mine and remember that this was just mine. It didn't belong to the audience, it didn't belong to the band, it belonged to just me. And I was like, let me clean everything and get as settled as I can so I can like fast track being a person
Mm.
again. And it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. So again, over time, you learn to let the post-tour blues be what they are because they're unavoidable and they can last longer or shorter or be more or less intense. But I think it's an important moment because it shines a light on what you just were doing. And I've and what you're doing now, how absurd but also real it is.
Yeah.
And I've learned to let that like translate that into gratitude. You know,
Mhm.
I'm coming back from this thing that I'm so lucky to have been able to do. You know, when I miss it when I'm not there. Let me spend time being grateful for it. You know.
I love that gratitude. That really does go a long way for mental health and just well-being, at least for myself. So I'm just going to dive into the questions that your fans asked. One of
Let's do it.
them, which was really, really pertains to what we do here at Backline, is just how do you prioritize your mental health on the road, and is it different from when you're off the road? How you prioritize?
There's a couple different ways. I try to be consistent with a couple of routines, like my beginning of the day routine and my end of the day routine. So I'm consistent about taking my vitamins and my supplements and my meds in the morning, and I make sure whenever I wake up, I'm doing that. I'm consistent with my skincare routine, which sounds silly. I don't have to make my bunk every day. I make my bunk every
Mm-hmm.
day. There's little things like that you try to do as many little things as you can on the road as you do in real life, because after a while it makes that transition less difficult, and it's okay. It's just life, we're just now I'm living life here and now I'm living life here. And little tiny things like a friend of mine who, before I started touring heavy, was a musical theater touring professional, told me, find an essential oil that you like and spray it on your pillow at home and spray it on your pillow in your bunk, so that when you're going to sleep, it's this sort of like, again, activating the senses and being like, I'm home, it's okay, it's safe, this is the smell when we go to sleep, it's okay, we can go to sleep. So little stuff like that. I try to be as consistent with therapy as I can on the road, and to just hype Backline for 1 second, to like pause for a moment. When I was looking for therapist, I tried a couple of traditional routes, and what I found was difficult about connecting with a therapist was I spent the first couple of sessions, paid obviously quite a bit of money, it kind of explaining what I did for a living. And I found that I couldn't really connect with them because I was spending too much energy trying to explain what it is that I do. And when I connected with Backline and they got me a caseworker and connected me with, a couple different people, I met a therapist that was such a perfect match. I didn't have to do any of that explaining. And they were also willing to meet me virtually while I'm on the road to stay consistent with that care. So therapy's huge. The little teeny tiny routines are huge. Um, Finding time to be by myself, which is really difficult, especially in a big group like this. Um, and little things that I do by myself that nobody else does. I love to do my nails. I bring my nail stuff on the road. I love to read my books. I love to read my tarot cards. I have my little things, and you try to prioritize them as best you can while still making space for the other people around you.
Oh, I love that. Your music and your fan base, as you can see, with just all of the folks tuning in and leaving like really sweet comments right now, it's also deeply rooted in community. What does community mean to you, and why is it important?
Well, well, community is kind of the meaning of life, dare I say. It's are we here for anything other than to help each other get to what's next? You know, like we if we were meant to do this alone, we wouldn't be so close to one another. And I think as artists, people who feel so deeply, it's so important to be able to lean on others as you move through life, especially in as fast paced and stimulating and complicated and emotional and like vulnerable of a life as an artist's life. Um, Community is essential. Community, in when it pertains to what I do for a living, it, it's something I was always looking for. When I was a young person, I also happen to be a young artist. I was always looking for a community that would like let me be who I was without having to try, period. Without
Yeah.
having to try to do anything. Um, and just sort of facilitate that space, because you don't need to like spoon feed people be nice to each other. You don't need to spoon feed people, to get along, be in community. So what we try to do in this project is just like facilitate the space, set ground rules, set boundaries. You come into it, I'll tell you at the beginning of the show, I want you to be good to yourselves, I want you to be good to those around you, and whatever you give us, we're going to give you. If you give us respect and high energy, we're going to give you the same thing back. And I see my job as facilitating spaces for communities to form and a larger community to exist, right? There's the community that comes to see us in London. There's the community that comes to see us in Birmingham, Alabama. And on a larger scale, it's the Friends community. It's this bigger thing. Um, but our job is just kind of showing up, posting up, camping out, setting up shop, and inviting that community in. I don't know that we do too much creating that. We just sort of create the space, and the people that come and check it out are just such wonderful sort of people. And like cliches aside, I can look into the audience and I want to be friends with all of these people. They're all clearly so wonderful, and the house staff tells us such wonderful things afterwards, like so many tips, and people were holding doors and holding drinks for each other. Um, but yeah, I think I kind of diverted from your question, but community is I think what keeps the world turning. It's the most important thing. I hope that was an answer.
It absolutely was. I mean, you can really, really tell from your live performances and just the comments on here alone that
I can't.
you.
I actually wanted to mention I can't see the comments are not loading for me, but I believe
Oh,
you.
okay. Well, there's a lot of really positive,
I believe
beautiful.
you. I
A lot of
believe you.
folks making like sending in comments saying that your shows are the safest spaces that they've ever experienced, and
It's very
that they're
thoughtful.
just so. Your community that you're building is very real, very legit, and very much needed in these times. That's basically the
Thank you.
gist, if I could summarize all these comments that we're getting on our end.
Thanks.
How do you then show up every single night when you're on the road with such joy and positivity?
Um, this thing, and I'm hesitant to talk about this because sometimes it gets misinterpreted as like putting on a
Mm.
character. That's not what it is. But this thing sort of takes over when I'm side stage and the band goes out and I'm about to come on stage, where it's not up to me. It's bigger than me. I'm just kind of like a vessel
Mm.
for it. It's my responsibility, right? I understand that all of these people have paid for tickets and waited all this while to come to this show. And I can be having whatever sort of day I'm having, but when I go out there, again, these people are so excited to see us. It's just the excitement, let alone like me. I'm not in an egotistical way of like they're clapping for me, and these people are so happy. And these people are so happy to be next to one another, and I value that they made the choice. They could have been anywhere in the world and they chose to be with us. And then also I look around and I'm with my six best friends. I mean, we're a family. And from the time I was a child, I knew I wanted to be a band leader. Not that I wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. I knew that I wanted to be the front of a band. I never wanted to do this thing alone. And when I do go on stage alone, like for the encore every now and then, I do a solo song, or every now and then I have to appear solo. That's when I'm really afraid.
Mm.
But when I'm on stage, I know that the band has my back. We have each other. And the hope is we lead by example, and whatever I'm feeling, I can lean on the band, I can lean on those people around me, and hopefully the audience learns that they can lean on the people around them too, and take that like lesson out the door with them. um it is yeah, something like takes over. It's just like it's go time. um but something I do want to talk about, which is hard sometimes, and I'm thinking about a handful of instances where I've experienced this in a really big way, is the way the industry is set up now. And that's a whole different live for a whole different, but it's the kind of thing where if you're playing a run of 35 shows, canceling one show can derail an entire budget. And that means I'm not getting paid, the band's not getting paid, the crew's not getting paid, the bus isn't paid for, right? Losing one show can derail an entire budget. So canceling shows is sort of like been set up as a non-option slash last option. Um, and that's tough to impose on artists. That sense of responsibility and pressure is really, really intense. And you learn as you get older, and I think especially as a woman, to listen more and more acutely to your body.
Mm.
And there are certain shows where, I'm exhausted. Touring is an exhausting thing. And I'm listening to my body, and my body saying, you have to lay down. That's what you have to do. But what I actually have to do is go sing the feeling in F and kick my face, right, in front of 4,000 people. And the act of actively, actively going against listening to your body, ignoring your body, um, that's what's really, really draining. It's not so much how do I find the strength to get on stage? I have to get on stage.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's easy and I love it and it's the joy of my life. And the 30 minutes before the show, I'm just like chomping at the bit, waiting to go on stage. I can't wait to get out there. But what's really tough is those days where your body is telling you that you need to just be a person and you need to rest and you can't be a facilitator of this thing right now. You just have to be a person. My responsibility when I'm on the road, uh, again, it almost tastes bad coming out of my mouth, but the industry is set up such now that my responsibility, more than anything, myself, is to get out there and put on that show. And what's really hard is that act of working against listening to your body. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely does. I mean, I think it's so important that folks who are on the other side, and might not have experience touring, know the realities of, like you said, just one single show can derail an entire tour budget, and
Yeah.
then the added stress of that, and let alone financial, but also just personally, and all the intricacies of that, I think is so important for folks to hear and to know how that affects one's mental health,
Mm.
and physical health, like you just said. What do you love most about the music industry, and maybe the least, or maybe that was your answer? But what do you love most, and and like the least about this industry?
Well, the music industry is one thing, and it's got so many pieces, right? And underneath that is the recording industry, the touring industry, the live performance industry. There's so much that goes into it. When people ask me what I do, I say that I'm a touring professional. That's how I identify. Even more, before I say that I'm a songwriter, I always say I'm a touring musician. And the thing that I love about the music industry, I'll speak from what I mean. I'm a recording professional as well, but what I do most of my time is I'm a touring professional. My favorite thing about that is that it's a lineage. It's like a family that I'm a part of, that I feel so honored to be a part of. And there's this connection that you feel to certain artists that have come before you, and the artists that are coming up underneath you or after you, where it's unspoken. Like we get it. If I see somebody else in a 930 sweatshirt, like we don't have
Yeah.
to talk. I get it, right? If you're talking about Master Tour, I know there's an unspoken thing. But on a greater sense, it's like, for instance, it's George Harrison's birthday, and I saw that today, and I shared a little thing on Instagram, but it's like that feels like my uncle. I've
Yes.
listened to so much of his music, and Paul McCartney and George, and that era, like these legacy artists, their music has been so much a part of my coming of age and becoming a person, in addition to becoming an artist. They've raised me as a person who is an artist. So, I think of, George Harrison as an uncle of mine. I think of like Bruce Springsteen as an uncle that I get to see online every now and then. And there's also this sense of, my Auntie Janice, like I have to live healthy and perform hard and be a talented, badass, visible queer woman
Yeah.
on enormous stages well into my old age because my aunt Janice like didn't get a chance to, and I have to carry out that legacy for her, if that makes sense.
I love that.
And yeah, and it's also when I look across the table and I see, um, another band that we love that we came up at a similar rate, or they're playing rooms a little bit bigger than us, or we're on tour at a similar time. It's a very unique thing that we do, and it's hard to explain to somebody on the outside. And therefore, I've never encountered a community in my life where folks have one another's back enough. And once you do it enough, the legacy act versus this person, that sort of fades
Yeah.
away. And I have met all kinds of legacy artists in my life. I've met, Doobie Brothers and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and met these like classic rock heroes. And there's just this sense of peer after a while because we're all part of this family, this like lineage that is carries on and doesn't end. That's my favorite part about it. Um, Once you're kind of on the inside, it doesn't matter how many people you've played for or how many years you've been in the game. Respect for sure, but everybody's got each other's back in a family sense. And even on a smaller scale, hey, dude, I'm sick. Can you cover my gig? Yeah, sure. That's family too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I love the thought of you thinking about, your Auntie Janice and like that giving you the motivation to
Totally.
continue the
And
story.
exactly. And like when I need like my mom, I'll call my mom, right? When I need my nana's energy, I'll call my nana. But like when I need like I'm exhausted, I gotta get up and I gotta do four more shows and I gotta go show these men who's boss, like I'll call my Aunt Janice and I'll put on her record and I'll sit in front of that
Mm.
my record player and I'll listen to it. Or I'll call on like, I'm like heartbroken and I got, somebody on my mind or whatever and I'll just go listen to some like sad dusty like Uncle Tom Petty stuff and I'll
Mhm.
visit with him, or I'll visit with, my pissy kooky Uncle Bob Dylan. And let them sort of impart their wisdom on me because we're all part of one family, so they're speaking from an experience that's similar to mine. We get each other, and
Mm.
when I need my dad, I'll call my real dad.
Yeah. I love that. I love the lineage factor. I love that outlook. That is so powerful.
Thanks.
That, that's amazing. I know we only have a couple more minutes left, so someone sent in a question. What does living a fulfilling life look like to you? What does that mean?
Oh, that's huge. um I want to make sure that like me and mine are taken care of, and I want to give back to the people who and the places that have made me who I am. I want to support my family, my parents who worked so hard, and my grandparents who worked so hard to give me what I have. And I want to support the communities that I come from and the venues that I came up on, and be able to do that not only with my finances, but with my presence. Um, but I just want to know that if I had like one lot in life, and we do this whole thing where like at the end of every show, we tell people to like go out and we have this mantra, like go put a smile on somebody's face and tell somebody they've got a place in this world. And go tell somebody that you want to be friends with them. If I had like one lot in life, it would be that. Go find someone who views the world in a way other than the way you do, and tell them that you want to be friends with them. Because it's so easy, especially in the digital age, to become so self-centered without even thinking about it. And the definition of self-centered means egotistical means something so different than it did years ago. We don't realize how wrapped up in our own selves we get. And I just want to, with what I do for a living and also just who I am as a person, encourage people to connect with folks who view and walk through the world in ways different than they do and learn from them, which
Mm.
sounds quite cliche, but uh yeah, I mean, we're just it is a um what is the word I'm looking for? Like an attention economy right now that seeks to excuse me, I have a bit of a head cold. It seeks to position us towards like self-centeredness and capitalism and
Yeah.
instant gratification. And I just want to encourage people to just like you you have enough here, right? You have what you need. We're only on this planet for so long. And do we want to live our lives as solely informed by our own experiences when there are so many other people with so many different experiences that can open our eyes to so much more? So just, go out there and like look at somebody who's not you and go, not just do I want to get to know you, but I want to be friends with you. I want to get to know you. I want to learn how you live and what makes you tick. And I'm sure that you will teach me something about how to be a better, more authentic, self-expressive person, and hopefully I can teach you some things too. But um, it, it's we're all helping each other get to whatever's next,
Mhm.
and I want to be part of that thing. I want to be a vessel for that thing, which is bigger than me.
I love that. That is so powerful. And that is truly how I feel like we can bring empathy and compassion throughout our day to day, is just by getting out of ourselves, like you said,
Yeah,
and seeing the person next to you, whether there's differences or not, and trying to find that bridge to
and I
connect.
think
Um,
people are realizing that
yeah.
nowadays more than anything, right? Like be, between everything that's going on, especially in the United States at the moment, the initiatives that you're seeing that are really transforming and rebuilding people's lives, uh, they are community organized,
Mm.
right? It's mutual aid that's pushing people towards getting back on their feet and being stable. And I see different groups like recognizing their privilege and advocating for others every single day. That it's almost like we're in a pressure cooker at the moment
Yeah.
and pushing all of us together. um Real change is happening when people just shut up about whatever it is that separates them and think about larger picture stuff. you know
Yeah.
we're in the find out era, if you will, and I think we're all finding out that the only thing that's going to keep us afloat is each other, the neighbor.
Thank you so, so much for taking the time to speak to Backline.
Thank you. I don't
Your
want to hang up. This is great, okay? Because this is not, we're also in an era of what Chapel spoke about in her speech, right? It is time that we start recognizing artists not only as people with feelings and like emotions and like a unique relationship to their mental health, but that tenfold. Artists are sensitive, artists are empathetic, artists feel and view the world in such a deep way. Otherwise, they wouldn't be artists. They're put on this planet to help put words to those things that other people feel but can't express, right? That person I just described, the artist, deserves to have their mental health be a priority and valued. And I get so excited when people want to talk about stuff like this. We don't make enough space for it. So I can't tell you how grateful I am for you having me today. And every time I go into a green room and I see a backline poster, I am just, even if I don't engage with my therapist or like any of your groups or any of your socials that day, if I see your poster in a green room, I'm like reminded that I'm part of a community that cares and I'm not alone and I can reach out for support whenever I need it. So I can't thank you guys enough for existing. I'm a stan. I tell everybody I know about Backline. I really do because it transformed my life. You guys transformed my life.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are so, so grateful. I mean, this is the kind of feedback that keeps this team going.
I
So
hope
thank you
so.
so much, Sammy, for everything, for your music, for your incredible outlook. Like, you've truly inspired me today. I know that you've inspired those tuning in, and we're just so grateful to have you a part of the Backline community.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you did tune in, I'm so grateful you're here. I'm sorry I couldn't see your comments and engage, but I love you and I'm so grateful that you're
Oh
here.
yeah, there's so many really, really good comments.
That's so nice.
Just summarizing, basically, everyone loves you and loves the space you create, and just you bring so much joy. You bring so
Thanks.
much joy.
Thanks. That's very kind. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. And I mean, just, yeah, thank you so much for everything you do, Sammy.
Thank you. You too. You guys are the best. Love you.
We love you. Bye.
Bye bye.